Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Codex. Today I have a very interestingly synergistic build for you today with some of the new arcanes we've gotten with Jade Shadows and the way that they interact with Chroma. Let's take a look at that. Now, if we look at this Chroma build, it looks very weird compared to most of the Chroma builds that you're probably used to seeing. There's no health mods on here, for example. There's Quick Thinking, that's weird. There's Hunter Adrenaline, that's a little weird. So let's go ahead and talk about that. Quick Thinking. This says that it drains energy to stop lethal damage with 240% efficiency. What that actually means is that once you get down to 2 health, instead of dying, you start taking damage to your energy as if it was health. The 240% efficiency means that a single point of energy is worth 2.4 points of health. So your energy is actually over twice as tanky as your health is. So once you lose all of your health, you actually become tankier, because your energy is much stronger. And that still accounts for armor, because when it says it's worth 2.4 points of health, it's 2.4 points of the full efficacy of your health. So with all of the armor that Chroma can give his health pool, all of that carries over to when you begin to take energy damage. We're using Guardian Armor here, which is his newest augment. It's a Vex Armor augment. Chroma's health takes 50% of the damage dealt to squad mates, which will be solo, so I won't be taking this within affinity range. Squad kills restore 5% of his health over 3 seconds and increase Vex Armor duration by 1 second. So basically, as long as you keep getting kills, your Vex Armor refreshes itself, so you don't have to maintain it very much, and you're also getting a passive heal. In a recent hotfix, they fixed it so that that passive heal from this augment now counts as a ability healing you, and you are able to trigger Archon Intensify on Chroma while you have Guardian Armor on. So this mod does give its full 60% strength value. The one note that I would say about this is that in order to actually take advantage of the extra 30% from healing yourself, you do have to activate Vex Armor, kill someone to activate the bonus, and then lose Vex Armor, and then recast it while Archon Intensify is still up. Because if you get this buff once you're already in Vex Armor, because the ability has already snapshotted the 30% strength, you aren't getting that extra 30% from the heal. So it can be a little annoying to use. If you want to, you can just use Umbral Intensify, which gives you 44% outright, and you miss out on that extra little 16%. If you're willing to do the min-maxiness, it'll also make, for example, Elemental Ward a little weaker, because with Archon Intensify constantly being up from killing, whenever you pop Elemental Ward, it'll get the full effect all the time. But it could just be a little bit annoying to get that little tidbit of extra strength on a Vex Armor, so just keep that in mind. We're using Adaptation, of course, because it's a huge damage resistance, and again, the amount of tankiness that your health receives also carries over to energy, so this does apply to the energy tanking. Transient Fortitude and in Blind Rage are our 2 other strength mods. And then, we are using Prime Flow. You might be asking me why I'm using Prime Flow once you see that I'm using Arcane Battery. So Arcane Battery, long story short, is going to give me 1,000 energy. So the reason I'm still using Prime Flow is because, again, energy is equivalent to health on this build, and also I want to hit at least 1,600 energy due to my secondary weapon, and I'll show you why in just a moment here. So I'm using Combat Discipline as my aura, and Prime Surefooted per usual. Again, if you don't have this because you haven't logged in enough, you can use regular Surefooted, you can use Handspring, you can use whatever other XLC you want. I just like using Prime Surefooted because knockdown immunity feels amazing on most Warframes. So the reason I'm using Combat Discipline is because the damage that this causes you to deal to yourself triggers Arcane Avenger, as I've discussed before. So Arcane Avenger will be constantly up and constantly giving you that plus 45% critical chance bonus. So it's just a nice DPS bump. And then here is where the synergy begins. Arcane Battery. Gain 0.30 max energy per armor point up to 1,000 energy. This scales with live values. So after you cast Vex Armor and get thousands of percent of extra armor, this will instantly scale up and give you that full max 1,000 energy. You will see in the build that I have over 1,800 energy once all's accounted for. For some reason, it doesn't seem to actually go to 1990, even though I have 990 energy right now. Actually, no, that's because of Arcane Battery is active here, isn't it? That's why. That's why. Yeah, so I have about 1,800 energy in the mission, and you'll see that. And you guys will definitely like the helmet that I'm using. It's not Nourish, it's not Roar, it's not Gloom. I'm using Empower on Helmuth. So this is just to get an extra 50% strength snapshotted onto the Vex Armor. Simple as that. You just cast this before you cast Vex Armor, and that's it. You just get an extra 50% strength. You're good to go. Wanted to give you guys a build with a simple helmet, you know, one that isn't Roar, isn't Nourish, isn't Gloom, because I know there's complaints about saying that. This build is very good with Gloom and Nourish, I'll say that. Either of those make this build, you know, very good, but this just uses some power, just simply more power strength. Now, the weapons that I'm going to be using is, yet again, we have a use for the Tenet Glaxion. And give me just a moment here, because I think I'm going to sneeze. Ooh, that was quite the sneeze. Okay. So, Tenet Glaxion here. This is the build that I'm using specifically for Chroma. So, keeping in mind the fact that you're going to get thousands of percents of base damage from Vex armor, you do not need to mod your weapons for base damage. It's useless. Do not do that. So that's why there's no Galvanized Aptitude here. There's no Serration here. There's no base damage Arcane. I'm using Primary Frostbite, which is crit damage and multi-shot. You want to use other stats that scale off of base damage because you get so much from Chroma. I am using a Magnetic Corrosive Cold build. I'm modded for Corrosive Cold. The Magnetic is because that's my progenitor element. So I'm running Corrosive Cold for a couple reasons. The cold is primarily important because I want to activate Shivering Contagion to spread cold everywhere and Photon Overcharger, which makes it so that enemies that are affected by cold procs have a much higher chance of dropping energy orbs, because again, energy is equal to health for us. Energy, energy, energy. You want to keep your energy up because it's the equivalent to keeping your health up. So it's good stuff. The rest of the build is pretty stock standard for what you would expect from a Glaxion build. It's just slightly rearranged for playing as Chroma. Now, the other reason I'm running Corrosive, along with a Cold, is because I do have one singular Tau-Forged Archon Emerald Shard on for +3 max Corrosive stacks. So I will be doing a 98% armor strip with my Tenet Glaxion, which is, of course, a huge damage increase, especially paired with that crit buff from Arcane Adventure. The other 4 shards are something that you're definitely not used to seeing. I am running 4 health regen shards. So that is combined, this is 30 health a second regen. Keeping in mind the fact that I'm already playing as Chroma, so my health is super giga tanky. And when I take health damage, the Hunter Adrenaline converts 45% of the damage I take into energy. This creates, along with the Guardian Armor health regen, a constant feedback loop of regenning health, which is then turned into energy. That energy then is health, essentially. I tank off of that, and then while I'm tanking off of that, I regen health to go back into health tanking, recycle my energy again, and it just keeps going around and around and around again. So it's a very funny feedback loop. Now let's look at the other synergy of this build, the secondary. Another one of the new arcanes that came out with Jade Shadows is Secondary Surge. On ability cast, next shot gains a damage multiplier for every 200 current energy, up to ×8, which means that at 1600 energy, which we have more than on this build thanks to battery, you get a 8 times damage multiplier on your shot. Now, typically, the problem with running this arcane is that since it's not base damage, you would need to find somewhere on the build to fit in a base damage mod, so either like Hornet Strike or the Galvanized Shot or etc. So if you have a hard time fitting that in, it can make using this arcane annoying. But since Chroma both provides all of the armor needed to activate battery to give me all of the energy I need for this arcane to be fully stacked, and it also provides all of the base damage that I need to multiply off of, this is a perfect storm for using this arcane, because Chroma himself will provide thousands of percent of base damage, making modding for it unnecessary, as we've already discussed. So this ×8 damage multiplier will be 8 times the crazy thousands of percents of damage that you get from Chroma. And I'm using the Lex Prime to utilize that because, again, it is only the next one shot that you do. So you want to use a weapon that does really huge one-shot damage. So that's why I'm using this. You'll see that the numbers are hilarious. I do have a ribbon on my build. It's double crits, crit chance, crit damage, and unfortunately negative reload speed. If you didn't have this, you could replace this with more fire rate, an elemental mod, a bane mod. There's a lot of things you could replace this for. This is just basically a raw damage build to show you how crazy it is with Chroma. And then I am using the Xoris as my melee. And again, this is a build that doesn't have any base damage on, because again, playing as Chroma. Typically, you would have Prime Pressure Point instead of Gladiator Might on this build, in my opinion. So, the crazy thing about glaive-style weapons, like the Xoris, like the Glaive, like the Halakar, so on, The detonation explosion from thrown melees double dips the damage bonus from Vex Armor. You heard that correctly. It double dips Vex Armor. The damage you will see from this is absolutely insane, especially with melee influence, making it apply to everyone within 20 meters. So you will see that. Now the companion is also a super important portion of this build. I'm using the Worm Prime. The main reason why I'm using specifically this Sentinel is because with a shield mod on, it's one of the only Sentinels, if not literally the only Sentinel, that's able to get enough shields to activate Reinforced Spawn. Having Reinforced Spawn active means that my Sentinel will give me an extra 60% fire rate, so it's just a nice little DPS bump, basically. And then we're also using Contagious Bond and Duplex Bond. Duplex Bond makes it so that every 100 energy you spend, which is a single Vex Armor cast on this build because it's negative efficiency, creates a clone of your companion, and their kills are able to drop energy orbs. Contagious Bond makes it so that they spread status effects. These two together, with the Veriglass build that I have, absolutely obliterates enemies, especially because your Vex Armor aura applies to your companions. So they do, again, an insane amount of damage. So this is a viral heat build, and these heat procs will be constantly stacking on enemies and then sharing to other enemies from that Contagious Bond. And you'll see in the mission, it's hilarious how effective it is. And again, it's even another source of energy orb generation. So let's go ahead and hop into survival here, and I will show you how funny this is. Alright, so my favorite Fisher mission happened to be up, which I've done a video on before, about making platinum, and that is the Conjunction Survival on Lua, on Steel Path. This is my favorite survival by far, partially because the drops are just really good, and the mission has some cool buffs and cool enemies that are unique to here. So let's go ahead. If you want to make things really crazy, give yourself a Nidus Spectre, pop that in power, and do a Matter-Eye Void Dash for that extra 40% strength that you can get from doing that. And then go ahead and pop that Vex Armor. And start killing. Now, since they reworked Chroma to where he can stack his Vex Armor with kills, he has so much better to stack, so much easier. Also, I just hit 14 million with the Xoris. Again, like I said, it's absolutely insane with Chroma, thrown melees. So you can see here, even without the corruption buff, I've already gotten to 1,324% damage and 1,685 armor. It's pretty good. And now I can just easily kill everybody here. Let's go ahead and show how crazy the Sentinel is. If I spam Vex Armor a few times, I'll make the 3 clones of my Sentinel. Right now I have 126 kills. Let's see how many kills I get with just my Sentinel. If I just walk around and just keep my Vex Armor up. I'm not even going to shoot. Everything that you are seeing right now is just my Sentinel. I'm already up to 163 kills. It is absolutely insane how effective your Sentinel is with this setup. This guy right here, by the way, the Lone Guardian, when you're within his radius, he gives you extra power strength. You can see right now I'm energy tanking. I just got down to 2 health, and I started taking energy damage. Absolutely no problem. Now, typically, you won't even actually get down to your health very often, because as you kill stuff, since you have Guardian armor on, you regen health. Keep in mind that while this is a really funny and strong energy tank build, you're still going to do very, very potent, hardcore health tanking, especially if you pop your second ability to give yourself some extra health. Because even though I don't have a health mod on, your second ability, if you cast the heat version of it, gives you a nice health bonus, and even without a health mod, you can still get 1,000 plus health. So not at all hard to health tank and keep your energy from even getting hit in the first place. It's just that once your energy does get hit, you're still basically immortal, because your energy is so insanely tanky. Especially once you get corrupted. That's what I really want to show you guys. Right now I'm just kind of playing around with these guys. Look at that 8.4 million damage on the Xoris. People think the Glaive is the best thrown melee in the game, but in reality, especially with damage buffs, it's actually a melee influence source. Of its insane range, crowd clearing potential, it's just absurd how good it is. By far the best thrown melee on Chroma. Kill a few more guys here. As you can see, thanks to the Arcane Avenger, even though I only have critical delay in my Glaxion, making its crit chance 65%, my crit chance is 105%, thanks to Avenger being triggered, so it's guaranteed crits, which is a huge DPS bump for the Glaxion, because going from the, you know, only critting 60% of the time to always critting, and even occasionally orange critting, is a very nice consistency bump in DPS. Plenty of damage here, even with running Photon Overcharger instead of Vital Sense, so losing a little bit of crit damage there. And not running a base damage mod because we're playing as Chroma, and running Shivering Contagion instead of another damaging mod. Even with all of that in mind, you still absolutely instantly obliterate every enemy here, because Chroma just gives you so much damage. Here we have an Acolyte coming, so let's show you how the secondary Surge works. So let me pop this. And then pop an ability for that 8 times damage bonus. And then he almost got one shot. I'm actually surprised he didn't get one shot right there. I actually just let my Vex Armor go on accident. That's what happens when you don't pay attention, because this is a negative duration build. So you do want to make sure that you keep killing. Keep that Guardian Armor buff going where you're getting that regen from kills. I just happened to lose it right there while I was explaining the Acolyte kill Sentient Surge. But yeah, that Sentient Surge bonus is absolutely crazy. As long as you have, if you have that 1600 energy or higher, you get an 8 times damage bonus, and that's millions of damage. Let's go ahead and show that again. I cast an ability here. 7.8 million damage, 8.4 million damage, 1.1 million, 1.5 million. It's crazy how much damage you do. So I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead in this mission here. And I'm going to keep playing for a little bit and wait until I get corrupted. And then I'll bring you guys back in so you can see how super crazy the Vex Armor can get when you have that double power strength bonus. Alrighty, welcome back everyone. So it took me a few rotations there, but we got there. I am now corrupted, and as you can see, my damage bonus is 2600% and my armor is almost 3400%. That is quite the leap from what we had before. The damage is, of course, insane. Like, you will absolutely have no issues killing anything. The interesting thing will be the energy tanking. So let's go ahead and see if I can even get down to 2 health so they can start hurting my energy so that you can see that. How good your Sentinel is, that can actually be harder than expected. I'm standing still doing nothing, but my Sentinel is, well, it's murdering everything around me. That's another reason why this build is so synergistic. Because your Sentinel is stronger than a lot of people's actual builds. So even if you're standing still, actively trying to test out the tankiness of the build, it's just like, nah, I'm just gonna kill everything for you. No worries, boss. One of the only things that does seem to be able to kill this build is the ramping up damage from the Xmas Jade Light Beam. That does a seemingly absurd amount of damage to the point where it's able to actually kill this build, but nothing else is really able to. It'd be nice if anything was able to actually shoot me so I could showcase that, but as I said, my Sentinel is doing way too good of a job right now. I'm just going to stand here for a little bit, and we shall see if the enemies can get me down. The only thing that I will avoid is the Jade Lights. Everything else I will just let hit me. I'm just going to keep refreshing my armor to keep it up, since I'm not getting kills to keep it up. I'm not going to use my second ability. We'll kill nullifiers, of course. There's a Jade Light, so we don't want to get hit by that. Let me charge up my Karn here. Cast an ability for Surge, and then blow up the dude. That easy. As you can see, I am actively having a hard time actually dying. I'm having a hard time even getting hit. So yeah, hopefully that was an interesting showcase for you guys on the synergy of this build. I think the combination on Chroma of Arcane Battery and Secondary Surge is a extremely effective both tank and damage build. Being able to hit like 50 million damage on this Lex, for example, thanks to Surge, is pretty gross. In fact, I'm going to get a few more kills with Secondary Surge here just to showcase that. On the Incarnate form, especially. Let's take out these Graxy boys here. And not lose my Vex armor. So I just casted ability. That was a 35 million damage heat tick. That was just the heat tick. That's insane. There's 23 million damage. 4.3 million. Every time you cast the ability, that next shot is super juiced up. 21 million. 125 million damage. Yeah, this thing is juiced out of its mind. This is why when the Acolyte spawns in, you just pop this and instantly roast it. There's 37 million. Yeah, that's insane. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this build. It's very interesting, a little different than what we're used to. And I highly recommend trying it out. It's a lot of fun, it's a lot of damage. Oh, look at that, just got corrupted again. And anyways, guys, I will see you in the next one.